What is going on, basketball fans? Welcome into another episode of All Things NBA. Appreciate all you guys that have been subscribing, hitting us up in the comments, doing all that fun stuff. We really, really appreciate it. We are in the dead of the NBA offseason. It is the middle of August. Look, September, things will start to ramp up a little bit. We'll get closer to training camp. But for tonight, Austin had a fun idea of what we're going to do. So, Austin, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Jimmy said, we had no idea what to talk about. We've been struggling for news after we talked about the schedule release. There has not been much left to talk about. So I was thinking, what are some things that both the Mavericks and the Thunder have equally kind of vested interest in? And I thought of the 2018 draft class. So obviously Luka is no longer with the Mavericks. However, when he was there, and obviously I think many Mavericks fans still have a place in their heart for Luka, there was always this debate as Shai and Luka were kind of ascending the ranks in the NBA as to who was better. And so I thought we should do a lottery redraft of the 2018 class. So basically what we're going to do is exactly that. We're going to go through the lottery. We're going to redraft. We're not going to worry about team fit or anything at all. We're basically just going to look at best overall player and who these teams would pick if they knew what we knew today. So instead of us kind of each rotating pick for pick, we're going to try to kind of talk through this and agree on it. We have most of the same picks, I think, except first and second. I think we probably have those switched up, but we'll see in a minute. So we're going to kind of talk through that, decide together, hash it out, and go all the way through the lottery and see where we land.
So just a reminder, the top three picks in the 2018 draft, super controversial now looking back on it. DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Luka Doncic. And then after that, you could kind of say there was a gap in terms of at the time where talent was going. Like I think everybody pretty much knew that was going to be the top three in some order. Going back, which is what we're going to do tonight. Those two of those three would not have been in the top three by any means. I don't think if anyone would have had two of those three guys in the top three. But if I had the number one pick in 2018, and I know everything I know right now, I am taking Luka Doncic with the number one pick. And I know Austin disagrees. So, Austin, you say your piece. We'll go a little bit back and forth here.
Yeah, so I would pick Shai. I think it's obvious. You guys probably assumed that I would pick Shai. However, I will just say, and I'd be curious if this is the same for you, like it's obviously not crazy to pick Luka at one. If I was there, I would pick Shai. I've got reasons for it, much like I think you have reasons for Luka. But yeah, I would take Shai first overall, and I'm curious, was it at all close in your head?
It was close, but my primary reason, look, obviously Shai has an MVP and he has a championship ring on his finger. Luka does not have either of those things. However, Luka's career started hotter than Shai's did. Shai took some time to heat up, and that's okay. That's fine. But Luka has been better for longer than Shai. He's got 5 All NBA first teams to Shai's 3. He obviously won the Rookie of the Year. He has taken my biggest thing really with Luka here is that he has done more with less than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think if you put, and you might call me crazy, if you put Luka on this Thunder team that was just on it, and it's a healthy Luka, I think the result is still the same. And I think Luka overall, and this is probably where we're going to get into a debate, I think Luka is a better scorer than Shai. I think he's a better passer than Shai. I think he's a better rebounder. The three big in the box score. Defensively, huge gap. I agree.
Yeah.
But because of the longevity of Luka's dominance, like how long he has been good and how long I still think he's going to be good. And unfortunately for Mavs fans, I don't think he's reached his peak. I think he's about to. Yeah. And so that's why I would go with Luka. But I agree, it's not crazy to take Shai one. Right. But I'm sticking with Luka here.
Yeah, so there's a few reasons I took Shai. One, I don't disagree with you at all. I do think that there's a little bit, it's kind of a nuanced discussion when we're talking about Shai. I think Shai would have reached the level that he's at earlier, but obviously the Thunder for a few years were not trying to win. And Shai was on those teams. So the second Chris Paul went out the door, it was clear that the Thunder were tanking. And so what that meant is Shai sat a lot. Shai sat a lot. There were times that they were calling it injuries. Like obviously he had little bumps and bruises, but they were just sitting Shai to get a better pick. So I totally get what you're saying. And I don't disagree about Luka being a more natural scorer. Like I think he is. What I think I like about Shai is a little bit of his just more like blue collar kind of characteristics. Like that dude just works hard. And I'm not saying Luka doesn't. I think clearly this summer you've seen that Luka does. But Shai, every single year, even after he hit the kind of what could have been a high water mark last year, comes in second in MVP voting, all this kind of stuff. Whoops. Still comes back. And add something new to his game. Like, he wasn't a great 3-point shooter by any stretch this year, but the volume went up and the percentage didn't go down. So he's starting to add a bit of 3-level scoring, something I think that he'll be better at. He was a much better passer, much more willing passer this year. So it's just hard for me to look at a guy that does have an MVP and did lead his team to a title in a playoff series where sometimes his number 2 and number 3 guys disappeared. And Shai was what kind of drug him through that. So that's why I picked Shai. I also think that Shai physically holds up currently better than Luka has.
Sure. Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't even. There's no pushback on that. I think Luka's biggest to prove thing is his body, and can he show up consistently in good shape and consistent. I mean, even if he's in great shape, he still has bumps and bruises that keep coming up. That like we just saw it in Eurobasket. He got landed on and like missed the rest of the game. Now he's coming back. He's fine. I'll push back, or not push back, but I will. And again, I don't go as hard at bat for Luka as I used to because he's not a Maverick anymore, and it just it hurts to see him excel. But I will also add that Luka legitimately he too came back every year with something new, either in his bag or strength wise. And I do think I genuinely believe 2 years ago when he led the Mavs to the title, I think he was robbed of MVP that year. I think his numbers were incredible. If you put those numbers in, like the year that Westbrook won the MVP, when apparently your standings didn't matter, he would have won MVP. All that being said, I think both would go easily 1 and 2 in some order. Pretty simply, I think the fact that Luka didn't go number 1 in 2018 is insane when you look at what he did in EuroLeague. As a Mavs fan, thank goodness he didn't, but also might have saved me from heartache, however many years later we are now. But anyway, I think that's an obvious 1 and 2. So Phoenix in this case gets a better point guard to put next to Booker, which would be incredible. Sacramento doesn't end up with Marvin Bagley, which saves their franchise from the treadmill of mediocrity that they're on. And then we go to 3, which was originally Atlanta, and then Atlanta and Dallas traded. That's where Doncic lands. But who do you have in that 3 spot?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the guys you're kind of looking at in that range are Trae Young, Triple J, those kind of guys. But I have someone that I don't think is controversial at all, but flew way up out of the second round. And I would take Brunson 3rd overall.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. Again, another former Maverick, which is absolutely insane to say. But I do think Jalen Brunson is the best overall player, which is crazy because Jaren Jackson Jr. just won Defensive Player of the Year not that long ago. He's made an all-star team. But Brunson has just emerged into this player that I don't think anybody saw coming. I was super hyped when Dallas drafted him out of the second round. He's just a winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins. Now, the interesting thing about Brunson, and one of the reasons he did fall, is because he's an older prospect. Like, people put him in this like young up-and-coming all-star talent group, and he's 28. I mean, he's almost 30 at this point. But at this point, I do think he's slightly better than Trae Young, even though I think Trae Young has become underrated at this point. And then I'm not a huge Jaren Jackson Jr. fan, but I do have him above Jackson Jr. So I agree with you. I would put Brunson at number 3 here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's just insane. And I'm sorry, I'm not in any way trying to rub it in, but golly, that Dallas had, like, I think unanimously Brunson, looking back, would go in the top 5. Like, I don't think that's crazy at all. Like, I think absolutely he would go in the top 5. So to think that Dallas had 2 incredible top 5 guys in a pretty deep and top heavy draft, and they're both gone, is just insane.
My only thing, and I know we're not diving into the history of the Mavs. People love to hate on the Mavs for not keeping Brunson, but once his father got hired by the New York Knicks, it was a no doubt done deal. He was leaving. Now there's talks that the Mavs didn't offer him an extension, but nobody remembers this, but he disappeared in the Western Conference Finals when the Mavs made the Western Conference Finals. So, like, he wasn't what he is today. I still agree we should have re-signed him. Would have loved to. but he was leaving no matter what. So I don't blame the Mavs that much for that loss.
Totally.
Rant over. Number 4, I think, again, now we're down to Trae Young or Jaren Jackson Jr. I think we both agree here. I think we both would put Trae Young at 4, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm higher on Triple J than you are, but I agree with you. I think Trae Young at this point in his career has become underrated. And I actually think he had a sneaky, really good year last year. The scoring has clearly always been there. He was at OU when I was at OU. And so I'd go to games when I was a student and watch him just pull up from just over half court and drill deep threes all day long. And it's super fun to watch. But I think the thing that you want to see from him, especially as they're now moving into this maybe low-key contender range, is if he can actually play point guard and facilitate well. And I actually thought he did that well last year. So yeah, I'm actually pretty high on Trae Young, and I like him here at 4.
I think he is the second best passer of this draft behind Luka. I think obviously SGA is up there too, but I think Trae Young is an elite passer, especially for his size. Man, if he was 4 or 5 inches taller, he would be, in that same conversation of Luka and SGA for the best point guard in the NBA. But number 5, we've kind of danced all around it. It is Jaren Jackson Jr. I think is the most obvious pick to go with here. Defensive Player of the Year. I think he needs to get his skinny butt in the paint and not be afraid of the rim and go get some rebounds to really take the next step. Injuries have also been a problem with Jaren Jackson Jr., but you can't take him. You can't take him any lower than 5, I think, with this draft. And I think here is where we kind of hit a talent gap. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. I think he's kind of the last guy that seems pretty obvious that he needs to be where he is. If nothing else, like you said, it's just for his high end defense. I completely agree with you. The Thunder obviously swept them this year in the first round of the playoffs, and there were so many times that he was matched up on Chet, and I was just shocked at his lack of willingness to try to get into the paint. He's a little shorter and he's a lot bigger. I just don't feel like he uses his body that well on offense at all. Incredible defensive player, though. He's got a little bit of a good, kind of 3-point shot. So, yeah, like him there a lot.
And then we get into number 6. And like I said, this is where I think things get a little interesting and you can mix it up a little bit. But we actually agree here too. A guy that it feels like kind of took a step back last year just because he was on a loaded team, but in all reality, like contributed to winning on the Knicks in such a big way and was a huge reason the Phoenix Suns made the NBA Finals the year they did and lost to Milwaukee. But I think we both have Mikal Bridges at 6.
Yeah, actually, I've got him one spot later. So
okay.
Yeah, I've got MPJ right here.
Okay.
So I think I'm not going to argue with you too much at all. I think that MPJ is a pretty good scorer. He's got some very obvious issues when it comes to just running an offense. I'm honestly pretty excited to see him playing in Brooklyn because I think he's just going to dominate the ball and not care about winning or passing, and it's going to be a fun time. So yeah, I just kind of had them there 1A, 1B. So I've just got them flip-flopped, but huge as far as Bridges goes. I think Bridges did have a sneaky good year last year. I also think it wasn't his best year, and so people got a little distracted. He's got real high-end scoring potential. It's not super consistent, but there are a few things that I think of last year when it comes to Mikal Bridges. And the first one that comes to my mind is I think he dropped like almost 50 on Christmas Day against the Spurs. He and Wemby were just going like 3 for 3 back and forth, and they ended up pulling that off. So that was huge, like basically carried the team that day. The next thing, I don't remember which game it was, but Bridges is more well-known for his defense, and I think that obviously played a huge part in the Suns' title run, but it played a massive role in how far the Knicks got last year in the playoffs. If you guys remember, he back-to-back blocked and then stripped Jaylen Brown of the ball in 2 possessions. Or, well, I guess, sorry, not 2 possessions, 2 different game final possessions to ice both games against the Celtics in 1-possession games where the Celtics had the ball. So, as you said, massively contributes to winning. And yeah, I mean, pretty good stereotypical kind of 3-and-D guy that can do a little bit more as far as handling the ball goes.
Yeah, Bridges is a guy I remember. I mean, I paid attention to this draft very closely as a Mavs fan because the Mavs originally had the 5th pick, and Bridges was a guy that I would have been happy with the Mavs taking at 5. I had really talked myself into him as a defensive prospect, which is funny that he came in truly as defense only and has really blossomed into both things out of Villanova. And then Michael Porter Jr., yeah, like you said, I mean, score machine. I think he's a great number 3. It'll be interesting to watch him shoot 500 times a game with the Brooklyn Nets this next year. But number 8, I think we also differ on who you got at number 8 after MPJ and Mikal Bridges.
So at 8, I have Anthony Simons.
Okay.
Who you got there?
I know I'm higher on this guy than most, at least from a talent perspective. I'm taking Miles Bridges. I think Miles Bridges is a guy that just hasn't had an opportunity to put it all together because he's in Charlotte and because of injuries. And then now it's turned into off the court stuff. Like, I wouldn't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole at this point in his life, because I just think off the court, I'm surprised he's even still in the NBA. But from a talent perspective, I think Miles Bridges is one of the best could be one of the best wings in the NBA if he wasn't stuck on a team like Charlotte. Now he'll have a chance this year to really show us something. Again, another guy I know I'm higher on than most, but I don't hate the Simons pick here either.
Yeah, no, I don't hate the Bridges pick either. I've got him lower. You guys will see in just a minute, but I don't think that's crazy at all. Some of these guys, you honestly look back on the names and you're like, oh, wait, I think they're good. Because like you said, they just get buried on teams that are completely irrelevant. The Charlotte Hornets are one of the weirdest teams in the NBA. Like, the only reason you hear about them is when LaMelo hits like a 1 foot, 3/4 court shot. Like, they just aren't competitive. They're almost a joke. And so you forget that he's on there. And so when I actually saw him today, when I was doing some research, I went back and watched some highlights, and I'm totally there with you. Like, obviously the off the court stuff is there, but don't think that's a crazy pick at all. Simons, I think, is really good. I think in some ways, I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but I think Boston got a really good side of this trade. So for what Boston is doing, they're trying to get under the second apron. I'm not as convinced as the Boston coaching staff is that they're trying to win a bunch of games this year. Obviously, they're going to say that they are. They're going to say they still think they can contend for a title in the East. I don't think that's the case. And so I think that what they wanted was to shed salary. They wanted to bring a guy in that could score for him a little bit. And they're, again, I don't think in a position where they're really trying to push for a title with Tatum on the bench. So I love what they got in Simons. I think he's a good scorer. I think with the news just broke that I think he's coming off the bench for them, which, again, I'm not entirely sure why. But I think Anthony Simons is a guy that I'm very, very, very high on. I don't remember where you had him, Jimmy, or if you had him, but what are your thoughts on Simons there?
I had Simons as the very next pick for me at 9. And my thing with Simons is I think he would be the best because he's not a great distributor, but he's a great ball handler. And he's not really big enough to play off ball a ton, but he can, and he's very athletic. He was in the dunk contest, I think, his rookie year. He is a guy that would be in the 6th man of the year running if he played on a good team.
Yep.
I think, he was obviously starting in Portland, but I think if you could get on a team, I mean, of course I'm going to say Dallas because Dallas needs a guard, but if you could put him in that role and just make him 6th man for a team like that, he would excel. I'm slightly lower on Simons than you because of the defense and the inability to really create for others, but his creation for himself and his athleticism and his shooting. I watched him torch the Mavs for like 40, I think, last year, just out of nowhere. He just didn't miss for an entire quarter. So I've got him 1 spot lower. Who do you have at 9?
Yeah, let me pull my list back up. Yeah, last thing on Anthony Simons, but he's a little small. He 6'2", 6'3". So I mean, he's a guy that, like you said, he's got his very clear issues, but much like what you just mentioned with Miles Bridges, I think if he was on a team that was a little more relevant and could use him a little better and in a way that would really fit his skill set, people would by and large be very high on him. So yeah, I have one next that I think you might not like at all. And this is a guy that I am a little higher on than probably almost everybody for a bunch of reasons. But I have at number 9, the Knicks taking DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is a guy that I am so aware of his flaws, but the kind of basketball fan I am is I cling to potential way too much. Sometimes, you get a guy that blooms a little late, gets in the right situation, and you see that potential come to life. I'm kind of convinced that's what's about to happen with DeAndre Ayton at the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. I have no vested interest in them. I don't want them to be good, but I kind of just see it happening. I think Luka in some ways will bring the best out of him. I like what he's got from a pure skill set perspective. Like, I think he is just a guy that clearly had number one potential. Like, he can score well. I mean, I think even last year when he was going through some issues and the effort was lacking in Portland, he was still scoring like 16 to 17 a game. And so I think you surround him with a better cast. That's the guy that, if he's in the right place and he's got his head in the right place, could maybe live up to a little bit of the potential that he used to be looked at with.
Well, the crazy thing is he earned a max contract. He signed a max contract with the Phoenix Suns after being the starting center that led them, or didn't lead them, but helped them get to the NBA Finals against
Well,
the
and
Milwaukee
he
Bucks
was
again.
People forget, like, he was a huge part of that. Like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I'd say like lead, but like, people forget that DeAndre Ayton was a monster in that playoff run. So he's clearly got it.
But here's one thing that sticks out to me so much, and one of the reasons I'm low on him, and it's a silly reason, but I can't help it think about it because it's been true. His goal, he said, coming into his rookie year, he did an interview, and he said his goal was to sign a max contract, sign one max contract in his career. And he said that, and then guess what? After he did that, he fell off the face of the earth, and Phoenix dumped him. They salary dumped him. And again, I'm not crapping all over your take. I'm just giving you my thoughts on this.
Totally.
And then he goes to Portland, and Portland decides, you know what? We're going to dump him. He's a young center. We're a rebuilding team. We're going to pay him $26 million to not play for our team because we'd rather have Donovan Clingan and Hanson Yang and Rob Williams as our and Duop Reith as our centers. And that just says a lot to me, especially because they knew he was going to walk and go to a Western Conference foe. I don't think his problem is offense. I think his problem is effort and awareness. Like, if you watch, like, I watched this highlight reel, basically, or low light reel of him basically just being out of position the entire time in Portland. And maybe if he's in a winning situation, he's remotivated. But there's also the other side where, like, he got some tough love from CP3, didn't love that. And Phoenix didn't love that he didn't love that, and was like, all right, peace out. And I've watched Luka. Luka will yell and scream at teammates, and he will tell them where to be in and out of position. That's either going to really help Ayton, or he's going to shut down and decide, you know what, I'm not playing for this guy. I'm not going to be his center. I'm not going to do it. So it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be amazing or he's going to just crash and burn.
What I think I'm banking on is, again, if you look back at his stats over the past few years, they're not terrible. So what I think I'm banking on is him responding positively to Luka. Like, from everything I've heard, Luka Doncic played a huge part in the recruitment of DeAndre Ayton to the Lakers. Now, obviously, they just needed a center, but you saw Ayton was sitting front and center right beside Luka when he did the press conference after he signed the max contract to stay in LA. They seem like they're jiving a little bit. And so what I'm banking on is having a few good years in LA, people noticing him and then looking and being like, oh, he's been actually pretty good his whole career. I'm totally with you about the effort part, because I was worried you were going to say you don't question his offense, but you do question his defense. I don't even question his defense. I just fully question his effort and awareness, like you said. I think that he's got the tools to be a very good rim protector, but I know exactly what video you're talking about. The amount of times his teammates are fighting for rebounds against the opposing team center, and he's standing out of bounds under the basket. Like, it's crazy. So I'm just banking on him being in a different situation and improving a little bit. I fully understand. I could be totally wrong there. But again, there's just something about watching. I watched that Phoenix run extremely closely. Here's a little bit of weird NBA lore. Monty Williams, when he was coaching them, used to coach for the Thunder. So he was an assistant coach for the Thunder, and he was actually a member at the church that I'm on staff with. So I don't know him super well, but Monty Williams and I know each other. Like, he would recognize me if we saw each other. I was the same age as a few of his daughters. So I was locked into that playoff run. And I just remember some jaw-dropping moments from DeAndre Ayton. So I'm just assuming, like, I was going to say he's not stupid, but he might be. I don't know.
He doesn't know how to drive on ice, apparently. He got iced into his own home. So at least it's warm in LA.
Exactly,
not gonna be a whole lot of ice in LA, so he'll be okay.
But he can't be dumb enough to not see where he stands in the league right now. This is his last chance. Like no
Yeah,
team,
it
if
is.
he just looks mid in LA, is going to take another shot at DeAndre Ayton. So I'm just banking on the pressure of that, the pressure of playing in LA, and the privilege of playing beside Luka to kind of push him back to where he used to be.
All right, I won't fight you anymore on my Ayton hatred, but I do have Collin Sexton there at 9, where you had Ayton, and we don't have to talk too much about Collin Sexton. I think he's a guy that has never, he was in Cleveland when they weren't winning games, but he's putting up good numbers, and then he was in Utah when they weren't winning games, and he's putting up good numbers, and now he is going over to Charlotte, and I don't really know where he fits in Charlotte, but I love his game. I've always loved Collin Sexton's game. I've always loved his tenacity on defense. He gets to the rim. He's just a fun guy that can explode, but he's just never been in a fun situation. Is that more because of him, or is it just because of the teams he's been on? I'm not sure. But again, high on Collin Sexton. I'm mostly high on Collin Sexton because sorry, I just blanked out. I'm really high on Collin Sexton because when he played with Alabama, if you remember, Alabama got like all their guys kicked out of the game, and he had played with 4 players against 5, and he almost led that Alabama team to a win, and that always sticks with me. But that's just college lore of Collin Sexton. I feel like I skipped somebody, Austin. Did I skip somebody?
I don't know.
You know what? I did. I had Simons. Sorry, this is where I actually had Simons, and then I had Sexton here at 10. So anyway, we've already talked about Simons and Sexton. So who did you have at 10?
Yep, I had Sexton at 10. I agree with all that. I think
Nice. Okay.
really good scorer, pretty good athleticism, can finish at the rim really well. He's a guy that I was watching closely because he was kind of loosely thrown out there as a name that the Thunder might be interested in at the trade deadline this past year when they were looking for a little bit more shooting and a guy that could, score a little bit off the bench, could play some good defense, could fit into what OKC was doing. Collin Sexton was a name that was thrown out there. It wasn't super likely, but I love his game. Like, I don't like it. I love it. I think he is incredible to watch. He's a guy that, I think has number 2, number 3 potential on a good team if he's in the right situation and develops a little more. So yeah, with you there on Sexton.
So then we get to 11. I've got Dante DiVincenzo here at 11, a guy that I loved. That whole Villanova team I loved, and I watched so much of them. A little lore for you, because I was a senior in high school whenever, I don't know, whatever it was. Yeah, when they made their first national championship run, and I was part of the United States Basketball Writers Association. I got sent to cover that Final Four, and then I had some like junior senior banquet that my mom was like, you have to go back for it. So I had to leave before the championship game, but I got to interview like DiVincenzo, and that was the year I got to interview Buddy Hield, some of the OU guys. So fun time. So I've always been high on DiVincenzo, but I have him there at 11.
Yeah. Who do you have at 12? Because we might have flip-flopped these.
I have DiVincenzo at 11, and then at 12, I've got Duncan Robinson.
Okay, well, never mind. So I've got at 11, I have Grayson Allen. I like Grayson Allen's game. He's not a guy I'm super familiar with, but I like what he brought to the Suns when he came off the bench this year. The Suns were just a hot mess, and so he saw the court often. He got some starting reps, and I just like guys that play like they care. Grayson Allen just always plays like he cares. So he's a dude that I just think is
sometimes
fun to watch.
Too much.
Yes, completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. But he's a guy I always enjoy watching. He can score. He can facilitate pretty well. So that's who I've got there. And then in the next position, I've got Dante DiVincenzo. I'm very high on DiVincenzo. He had a bit of a weird year in his transition from the Knicks to the Timberwolves. But by the end of the year, DiVincenzo was looking like I think everyone thought he would. Specifically, even in his series against the Thunder, like obviously the Thunder pretty easily handled the Timberwolves, but there were a few games where DiVincenzo was a nightmare for us. He was hitting every 3 that he was taking. He was flying around on defense. So he's a guy I really like. I love all those Villanova guys as well. So big fan of his.
Yeah, I liked Allen going that high. I've got him here at 13, I think. But Duncan Robinson is a guy that was undrafted, which is crazy. I think he has the most. He's got some record. I think it's the most threes ever made by an undrafted player, or something like that. I think I might have made that up, but I know he's got a crazy. He's got a great shot. Now he gets to go to Detroit. play next to Cade Cunningham, probably the best point guard he's ever played with, unless I'm really forgetting somebody that he played with in Miami, but a great facilitator. I think he's going to get buckets in Detroit, and really, I think he's replacing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Michael Beasley as their 3-point guy. Great story. Again, just crazy that he went undrafted. But I've got Duncan Robinson there where you had Dante DiVincenzo. So now we're at 13, and that is where I have Grayson Allen.
Okay. Tell me about him.
Just another guy that he has turned into, instead of just because he came in and as a huge athlete, as a very highly touted recruit at Duke, being the white boy out of Duke that everybody hates. And then he's really transitioned his game from just being a dirty work, like defensive minded athlete that can get to the rim to all of a sudden he is an elite 3-point shooter. Again, another elite 3-point shooter, and I'm a sucker for him. I hate that he's on Phoenix now because Phoenix just isn't going to be good. And he's a guy that would just be amazing for a contender off the bench. And like you said, he can play the point guard position a little bit, but he really is that ideal spot up 3-point shooter.
Yeah. So he's obviously would play less point guard than this comparison I'm making, but in my head, he always has had like TJ McConnell potential on a good team, where you're just like, what the heck? It's not just because he's a smaller white dude. But like TJ McConnell's a guy that just like plays hard, can shoot. Obviously, he's a little bit more of a distributor than Grayson Allen is, but I feel the exact same way that Grayson Allen on the right team would show exactly why most people still have him as a lottery pick in most redrafts. But again, with lack of eyes on Phoenix Suns games, and a team that honestly just isn't going to be wanting to win for a few years. So in some ways he's kind of wasted there. Well,
Grayson Allen went, what did he go, 21 in the original draft? So, I mean, he, has worked his way up, obviously, and we'll talk about this at the end, some of the players that have just completely busted and turned into nothing. But who did you have at 13?
Yeah, so at 13, I had Bruce Brown. So,
okay.
Yeah, Bruce Brown is a guy I personally just like. I enjoy his like versatility on defense. He's another one of those guys that plays really hard. He can guard up a little bit. Now, he has not been himself as of late. I think a lot of people kind of wondered if he even still had it these past few years, but I kind of think that him going back to Denver is going to open some stuff up, playing beside Jokic. He's a fun fit for that team. I'm not expecting a ton from him, but he was a guy that, especially on that 2023 title run, he was a huge part of that team. Like, obviously he's not going to be the guy that you look back on and attribute a lot of that winning to, but if you go back and watch some of those series, he's in every play. His hustle is something that I think is super contagious on that team, and something that I think you'll still actually see him affect Denver that way this time around. So yeah, he's a guy I really like, kind of just a personal favorite of mine. But yeah, that's
I didn't have Bruce Brown in my top 14. I probably would have had him not far out of it. The only reason being is that his longevity, like he had, he was in Detroit and then he was in Brooklyn, didn't do anything. He goes to Denver for like a couple of years and does that. He's like an elite role player. And then he's gone to Indiana and Toronto and New Orleans and kind of disappeared. But if he comes back to Denver and shows something, then he's easily goes back into the lottery pick status.
Yeah.
But for that 14, go ahead.
Yeah. He's just the kind of guy that is not really, I would say, good enough at any one particular thing to succeed in any situation. Because there's guys that you can plug and play in any team, even if it's a bad team, and they're going to get buckets. They're going to do their thing. Like MPJ, for example. Like, obviously, I don't expect him to make Brooklyn a contender, but you're still going to see the flashes of why he is who he is. Bruce Brown's not that guy. I think that he has to be around certain kinds of players, and when he is elevated to like an elite role player position, and that's kind of what I'm banking on this second run in Denver. But we'll see about that.
So final pick. This is where I had DeAndre Ayton, so I didn't leave him completely out of my lottery. And like you said, if he can figure out a way to put it all together in LA, then he will, shoot back up this draft board. Even if again, hit the Phoenix Suns days, that's where everything, that's the only reason I still have him in my lotteries, because of the Phoenix Suns days, honestly. But with a little look toward the future. So who was your last pick in this lottery redraft?
Yeah, my last pick is your boy Miles Bridges. So I like Miles
Yeah.
Bridges a lot. Not as high on him as
Please,
you.
please do not call Miles Bridges my boy to anybody outside of
Yeah,
the
that's
NBA
my bad.
circle.
My bad. My bad. Yeah, no, totally. So he's I mean, we don't need to revisit a lot of this. All the same stuff that we said earlier. Like off the court issues aside, he's a guy that I am pretty high on. Not as high as Jimmy, but he's a guy that will never get the respect on the court that he deserves because of the team that he's on.
So the only teams or the only players that I had Duncan Robinson in my top lottery redraft. You had Bruce Brown. That's one guy. I didn't have one guy you didn't have. But overall, like pretty consistent. And it's just crazy when you look back at like some of the guys, like Mo Bamba coming out was talked about as the next who did they compare him to?
I mean, he had
Like a
song.
Giannis that could shoot. Like bro, yeah, and he got a whole song named after him. That was like the most popular song while I was in college. Marvin Bagley, I was praying the Mavs would land at number 2 to be able to select Marvin Bagley. Like I was all in on Bagley. And of course, at the time, it was like, okay, Ayton and Bagley are two guys that are big men that can hypothetically shoot. Like, why wouldn't they go 1 and 2? And then, I mean, I like Wendell Carter Jr. I almost put him in the lottery. Like, I don't think he was an outlandish pick at 7. The craziest pick of the lottery still is Jerome Robinson.
Yep.
Never even seen him play a minute in the
That's
NBA.
what I was just going to say. I was like,
maybe
I'm just less in the know, but I was going to say, I don't know if I've ever seen Jerome Robinson play. I've only ever heard of his name mainly because of how high he was drafted.
Some other guys that you kind of go through and you see some names like Troy Brown was the 15th pick. Zaire Smith was the 16th pick. Jean and Musa, Omari Spellman was taken in the first round. Some other good undrafted free agents that we did not talk about. Kenny Hustle, your boy.
Yeah,
has really
Jimmy
carved out a role for himself.
Jimmy actually had him initially at 1, and I had to convince him to take Luka.
Hey, he is a TCU grad. He is a local DFW boy.
He's a good
and he
guy,
rocks
man.
the DFW haircut. Yeah, he seems like it. Kendrick Nunn was an undrafted free agent. He's, come back and forth in the league. And then Gabe Vincent is another UDFA. Another guy that was an undrafted free agent that started really hot was Alonzo Trier. Like he came in and torched the league for like half of his rookie season, and then all of a sudden just fell off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and another bit of NBA lore for you from Austin Payne. Alonzo played for the homeschool basketball team in Edmond, Oklahoma. So same league my little brother played for. I played on one summer league team with Alonzo before I quit basketball.
Wow. Yeah. Now Austin Payne can be found banking in 3-pointers on Saturday mornings at the local Christian college. So.
Right in Jimmy's face.
Man, anything else you want to hit on before we call this an episode?
No, not really. I mean, I'm a big Mitchell Robinson fan, so he was taken in this draft class. I think he was somewhere in the 30s. He's just a good time to watch. I love a big guy that has no skills, but is just huge and fights. So he was fun, but besides that, I think we covered most everybody. It was a super good draft. I mean, looking back, you're just shocked at how deep this draft was and the level of top end talent. Like you're basically looking at 2 guys that, if healthy, will be battling back and forth for MVP for the next 5 years. So super awesome draft. It was fun doing this, Jimmy.
Lots of fun. We'll have more fun stuff coming next week. And then, as we get into the regular season, as the training camps start to ramp up, hopefully we can be putting out even more regular episodes for you guys. But until then, we're going to come up with some creative ways to keep content coming. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, give this video a like.